again with another great show. Make sure you smash that like button and that subscribe button so you'll be notified when another amazing episode drops. And so, first, I'm going to start off with a disclaimer. I'm not sure how the audio is going to sound. The microphone's on the fritz, but the show must go on. So here we are, and so we're going to work through this. And so, what are we going to start off with? Amazing news. The UFC Fight Night, Rodriguez against Waterson. And this was, Rodriguez is definitely, she's had some nice victories lately, beating a lot of the top girls at flyweight. And so Michelle Waterson was just next on the chopping block, and she looked pretty good, but I mean, how good? I mean, does it matter how good she really looked? Because she didn't look good enough to beat Valentina Shevchenko, who to me is the best. I mean, to me, she's the best woman I've ever seen. I mean, Nunez is able to. She's a bigger person. I mean, she's able to use her size, and I mean, even then, those fights were extremely close. So I mean, that's. It is what it is. It was a nice victory for Marina Rodriguez, but I mean, she's gonna have to fight Valentina Shevchenko, and I don't see her style being the style to beat her. So let's see. Our co-main event of the evening was Alex Moreno against Donald Cerrone. Donald Cerrone was on a 5-fight winless streak, hadn't won since 2019. Yeah, I think it's probably time for him to retire. I mean, he's not going to. He's talking about going back to 155 and taking a fight there. But I mean, what's really? I mean, yes, the dude always stepped up, but it's time. It's time to hang it up. I mean, anyone else would have been cut from the UFC already. I mean, not to take anything away from Alex Moreno's win. It's a nice victory. But the story of the fight is Donald Cerrone not beating someone who he should have beat. I mean, I assume he doesn't still want to fight if he can't beat guys that are on the level of Alex Moreno. But we'll see. Our next fight of the evening was Neal Magny against Jeff Neal. Jeff Neal has looked good. And this was the fight that Neal Magny's a gatekeeper, so this was the type of fight that would definitely take Jeff Neal up to that next level. But Neal Magny was just, I mean, he's just able, he sets that pace, and he's able to put a work rate on guys, and I'm transitioning from stand up to ground. It's just, it overwhelms guys, and that's what he was able to do. Unanimous decision. So nice win for Neal Magny, and I mean, I guess he'll fight someone. I mean, he's basically a gatekeeper, so Jeff Neal is basically the story of this fight, that he wasn't able to get past Neal Magny. So let's see. The other exciting fight of that card was Diego Ferreira against Gregor Gillespie. And the first round, Diego Ferreira was messing Gillespie up, landing nice shots. But then started to gas toward the end of the round, and so when the second round started, Gillespie just put a pace on him and was able to break him. And a nice TKO win for Gregor Gillespie. Nice to show heart and determination. Let's see. So that brings us to UFC 262. I think this was in Houston. This was the second large capacity crowd after Jacksonville. Amazing card that was. So let's see. Fight that I was interested in was before that, the Jacare versus Andre Muniz. Muniz had said that he thought he had better grappling than Jacare, which seemed ridiculous, but he came out there and he was able to grab an arm, and he broke Jacare's arm. Like you could hear the snap throughout the crowd. I mean, it was Yeah, it was pretty gruesome. I mean, but Jacare acted like it was nothing. I mean, I don't know if that's. I mean, I think that just how tough he is. I mean, I'm sure there was some shock, but I assume it's because he had broken his arm in a jujitsu match and just tucked his arm into his belt and ended up winning a decision. I think that's like Roger Gracie. It wasn't just anybody. So. But yeah, that's probably the end of the road for Jacare, at least in the UFC. I mean, you know how these guys are; they'll probably stay around, get a check for a while longer. But at 41, yeah, he's definitely on the downward swing of his career. Let's see, Lando Venata against Mike Grundy. Lando looked good. This was his first fight at 145. He looked good. This was Lando I've been waiting to see ever since the first time I'd seen him when he was a short notice replacement and he fought Tony Ferguson. Even though Tony Ferguson was able to finish him, I think in the second round, like a Bravo choke or something, or maybe a Darce. It was one of those. Lando looked good in that fight, and you could tell, like, wow, okay, this guy's got something, and he had a nice highlight reel spinning back kick finish on John Makdessi. But other than that, he's been kind of he'll have his moments, but he lackluster, underachieving. And he looked good. He looked in good conditioning. He looked quicker. I mean, Grundy went for 20 something takedowns in this fight. But Lando looked good. Anytime he was able to even get taken down, he was able to just pop back up almost immediately. And it was just that was an exciting performance by Lando Venata. It was a split. I guess he got this split decision. Let's see. Yeah, he can't wait to see more from him. I think he's gonna do something. And so another fight at featherweight was Edson Barbosa against Shane Burgos. That was the start of the pay-per-view. And it was everything that you thought it would be right off the bat. Edson Barbosa comes out and starts throwing low leg kicks, calf kicks. He's just lighting Burgos up, and I mean, but Burgos showed determination, and he never really showed he was hurt that bad, and he took so many of those kicks, and he just kept putting pressure on Edson Barbosa. But in the third round, Barbosa was able to land a shot. And it was the most delayed reaction from a headshot I've really ever seen. You'll see it from liver shots here and there. But the headshot, it was like several seconds. He took several steps back, and it's like then he just realized how hard the shot was, and then he drops the canvas, and Barbosa was able to pound him out. So nice victory for Barbosa. Why don't they just throw Barbosa against Venata next? That'd be an exciting little fight. Let's see. Our co-main of the evening was Tony Ferguson against Beneil Dariush. Tony Ferguson was on a 2-fight losing streak, and Dariush was on a 6-fight winning streak. So this was definitely a crossroads fight for the two. If Dariush would be able to get by Tony Ferguson, it's the next steps up in competition are getting close to the belt. And if Tony Ferguson was able to turn back the hands of time, I mean, him being 37, if he's able to, because he lost to Gaethje and Charles Oliveira, who's in the title fight. And Gaethje was in the title fight not long ago. So, it's not like these guys are chopped liver, but the way he was dominated, he really needed to prove something if he was gonna stay relevant in the lightweight division. And from the opening bell, Dariush just completely dominated. Basically, it was borderline the same exact fight as the Tony Ferguson Charles Oliveira fight. Dariush just completely dominated, and it was ugly. Like I was talking about with Donald Cerrone, I think Tony needs to hang it up. You face 3 losses, but the way he's lost, you never saw anybody do that to him before. And I don't know what's going on with him. Maybe he just lost it, but I don't know. He probably needs to hang it up, and Beneil Dariush needs a jump up in competition. I don't know. The lightweight division is just looking so exciting. And that brings us to the main event for the lightweight title: Charles Oliveira against Michael Chandler. Um, Charles Oliveira's like on a 7 fight winning streak, I think. Michael Chandler looked good in his first fight in the UFC. So it was shaping up to be an exciting fight. And right off the opening bell, they start going at it, and Chandler was able to hurt Oliveira. Oliveira went in for a takedown, but Chandler was able to grab a deep guillotine, and but Oliveira never showed any concern, and so then he was able to get Chandler's back. Chandler was able to get out of that, but then Chandler dominated the most of the rest of the round. I was able to beat on him pretty good, land some nice elbows, land some nice punches, and then so the start of the second round, they come out and Oliveira lands a nice shot, yeah, gets him against the fence, pounds him out, and like that, Charles Oliveira is the UFC lightweight champion. It took him 28 fights, which is the longest it's ever taken anyone. But the guy is only 31 years old. He came to the UFC at 20 years of age, and I mean, from the very beginning, he's always looked good. He started as a featherweight, and I mean, the lightweight division is wide open right now because I mean, yes, it was. I mean, I'd love to see that rematch, and I mean, who wouldn't love to see Oliveira against Poirier or even Conor McGregor? I mean, there's so many Justin Gaethje. I mean, there's so many options now. I mean, it's the like with Khabib, it was like, who's Khabib gonna smash next? But this is like, I mean, the lightweight division is getting exciting again, and it's got some of the best fighters in the world. So look forward to seeing where that goes. Let's see, our next fight night is going to be headlined by Cody Garbrandt against Rob Font. Font's looked decent lately, and Garbrandt with that nice highlight reel victory over Rafael Assunção. And yeah, I mean, I'm going to go with Cody Garbrandt. He's just I mean, he's fought at a higher level. He's fought more high level competition. So maybe this will be when Rob steps up. But I'm gonna go with Cody Garbrandt. So let's see in NBA action as the season rolls down. We got maybe I think one game left. Maybe Philadelphia, then Brooklyn, then Milwaukee. Those are gonna be the seeds in the East. And in the West, it's Utah, Phoenix, and Denver, and the Clippers are tying. It looks like the Lakers, as it stands right this second, the Lakers are going to be in the play-in versus Golden State. But there still is, I think they could win a tiebreaker against Portland. Yes, Portland. So we'll see if they're able to finish in that sixth spot instead of that play-in position. Steph Curry's going for the scoring title. He had a couple points on Bradley Beal, which I if I'm not mistaken, I think Bradley Beal possibly was even hurt. Or actually, let's see. Yes, no, Bradley Beal is not hurt. He's actually, he's playing. They're playing today. So this is maybe the scoring tile is gonna come down to the end of the season. We'll see. Russell Westbrook was able to break Oscar Robertson's triple double record. So I mean, if he never wins a title, he's still gonna be lauded as, I mean, one of the best players of all time. I mean, just some of the numbers are ridiculous. I think this month he averaged like 22, 16, and 14 or something, which is insane. I mean, those are like Wilt Chamberlain. I mean, maybe not the points, but I mean, just to be able to get that many assists and I mean, that's unheard of. And as it stands right now, it looks like Jokic is going to win the MVP unless I mean, Embiid didn't play enough games. Steph Curry didn't play enough games. I mean, it's basically Jokic wins out of everyone else not playing enough games. I mean, are they going to give it to Luka Doncic? I mean, he hasn't been as good as Jokic, and I mean, Jokic. I mean, they're playing better. I mean, so I don't know. I feel like he's going to win the MVP, but you never know. Maybe they'll give it to someone else. Let's see. That brings us to the big fight last weekend was Canelo Alvarez against Billy Joe Saunders, and this was you thought maybe someone like Billy Joe Saunders could give Canelo a hard time, a guy who's slick, a guy who can get on his bike and move. Was he going to give him any issues? Saunders talked so much mess before this fight. Talked about he's gonna knock Canelo out and all this stuff he was gonna do to him, and he'd also keep in mind for later the things that Saunders had said that he'd have to be carried out, that he'd never quit, and this was after Daniel Dubois had sustained a broken orbital and quit, and Billy Joe Saunders said he would never do that. So that brings us to the fight and Canelo. I mean, Saunders had moments in there. I would have given Saunders several rounds, but at no point did it ever seem like Canelo wasn't just stalking his prey and that he wasn't, winning the fight. And he was, it seemed like he was going downhill and Billy Joe Saunders was going uphill. So, it seemed like he was turning it on. In the eighth round, he started hurting. He landed a shot and it just immediately swelled up Billy Joe Saunders' eye, and then Canelo started playing to the crowd, and I don't know that I've really ever seen Canelo do that. So once he started doing that, I was like, oh shoot! And he was looking like Superman in there, just blasting shots, and everything was looking like it was hurting Billy Joe. And so the end of the round, and they start messing with his eye, and he says he can't see, and so that was the end of the fight. Apparently, he had a broken orbital, and so I now they've done the surgery, and I guess he's fixed now. But so of course, there was a lot of backlash about all the things he'd said that he'd have to happen to him for him to quit. And it's who quit, who made him stop? Did his corner? If he really wanted to still fight, they would have. He didn't want to fight. And he probably shouldn't have fought because after seeing that X-ray, and he was going to go out. Who knows what would have happened to him? But that's also what separates the men from the boys, because that's happened to other people before, and they pushed through it. So it is what it is. Nice victory for Canelo. The only belt he needs left to be the undisputed super middleweight champion is Caleb Plant. And Caleb Plant's basically a Billy Joe Saunders clone. So it is what it is. We'll see if he's able to do anything with Canelo. So, and if Canelo goes through Plant, what is it then? Maybe he'll have one of the Charlos move up. I guess Triple G moves up. I don't know that he really wants to mess with any of the better BF. I don't think he wants to mess with any of the better light heavyweights. Kovalev, he was old, so I don't know if he wants to. That was a good fight pick by Canelo, but I don't think he wants to mess with too many other light heavyweights. I assume he doesn't want to mess with David Benavidez. That's another guy at 168, but he doesn't have the belt, so that's the excuse not to fight him. So we'll see where Canelo goes. I assume the next in September for the Mexican Independence Day will be Caleb Plant, and then we'll see where it goes from there. And so then that brings us to finally the Hall of Fame acceptance. I don't even know all the people who I know. Kobe, Tim Duncan, Kevin Garnett, Tamika Catchings. There was some other people, but those were the big ones. And I think Ben Wallace. I'd just seen that they'd said he was getting, maybe I don't, maybe that's next year. I think that was this year. I don't know if they did a presentation for him or not. But so Isaiah Thomas was the presenter for Kevin Garnett, and Kevin Garnett. I mean, he just always had that determination. He was always such a hard player. And I mean, the guy was I mean, he was the first. I mean, even in like the video games, he was like the first guy who was like as fast as Jordan, but then he was 6'11", so it was like he was. Yeah, I mean, he's like the hybrid basketball player that could play all, maybe not all five position, but multi position player. That I mean, so many players are nowadays. The Tamika Catchings. I never knew that she was hearing impaired, and that she was hearing impaired and had a speech impediment, and yeah, I mean, that's just she had a nice story. Who else? Tim Duncan, probably the best power forward of all time. Either him or Karl Malone, but you gotta give it to Tim Duncan. I mean, he had 5 championships. Karl Malone didn't have any. Yeah, I mean, Tim Duncan, Mr. Reliable, Mr. Fundamental. I mean, just the guy was always there, legit. David Robinson presented to him. I think Alonzo Mourning presented Tamika Catchings, and then that brought us to the Kobe Bryant presentation. His wife, his late wife, or yeah, I mean his widow, was there to accept the award for him, and the presenter was Michael Jordan, who, I mean, I never knew that they even, like, since Kobe's passed, you've seen the relationship they had, like mentor to mentee, and is I mean, as someone who did not like, when I was a Celtics fan, I despised Kobe Bryant. I mean, him and Magic Johnson are two of the people, probably most hated athletes, as I was growing up, for me anyway, being a Celtics fan. And but I mean, you grow up and grow out of all that stuff, and like, especially like the tragedy that happened. It's just, yeah, I still, I mean, on the sporting wise, I still think he was overrated, but okay, as it goes, it was a very touching Hall of Fame presentation, and yeah, that was yeah, it was her accepting the award for him, and Michael Jordan being there. That was just, yeah. But so you can find us on Trauma Television, because this is Trauma Television on YouTube, because this is Trauma Television production, on Facebook, Trauma Television, on Big Scary on Facebook, and on Twitter, Big Scary on Twitter. And as Martin Luther King said, darkness is more versus long.